Walter and Joan were researchers working at an isolated facility where they were studying a new virus that had the potential to cure a wide range of diseases. However, things took a turn for the worse when the virus was accidentally released in the laboratory. At first, they didn't notice anything out of the ordinary. But soon, they started to experience strange symptoms. Their skin became rough and scaly, their eyes turned yellow, and their teeth grew into sharp fangs. As the virus spread, their coworkers began to transform into monstrous creatures, their once human bodies now twisted and mutated. Walter and Joan were horrified by what was happening to them. They feared that they too would become like the other creatures in the facility. But as they searched for a cure, they discovered a dark truth. The virus was not a natural occurrence, but had been created in the laboratory as a bioweapon. And now, it was spreading beyond the facility's walls, infecting the surrounding countryside and turning more people into monsters. The couple realized that they were running out of time and had to find a way to stop the virus before it was too late. But as they worked to find a cure, they began to experience blackouts and memory lapses. They were haunted by the fear that the virus was slowly taking over their minds, and that they too would soon become mindless monsters like the others. One night, as they worked late in the laboratory, they heard a strange noise coming from the shadows. Suddenly, one of the mutated creatures jumped out from the darkness and attacked them. They managed to escape, but as they ran down the dark corridors, they encountered more and more of the mutated creatures, until they found themselves trapped in a corner with no way out. Just as they were about to be overwhelmed, they suddenly woke up in their beds, drenched in sweat. They were relieved to find that it was just a nightmare, but as they looked in the mirror, they saw that their skin was rough and scaly, their eyes were yellow, and their teeth were sharp fangs. They screamed in terror, realizing that their nightmare was not a dream but a horrific reality. The virus had taken over their minds, and they were now just like the other monsters in the facility. The terrible truth was that the virus had affected their minds, making them believe that they were still human when in reality, they had become the very creatures they feared. They suddenly realized that they were not alone. The other mutated creatures were slowly advancing towards them, their yellow eyes glowing in the darkness, ready to claim their next victims. Walter and Joan tried to fight back, but their newly acquired strength was no match for the hordes of monsters that surrounded them. They were forced to retreat deeper into the facility, desperately searching for a way out. As they ran through the labyrinth of corridors and rooms, they discovered that the facility had been abandoned by the outside world, left to rot as the virus took over. But as they delved deeper, they found evidence of sinister experiments that had been conducted within the walls of the laboratory. And then, they heard a voice calling out to them from the shadows. It was a scientist who had survived the virus, and he revealed that there was a cure, but it was located in the deepest, most secure part of the facility. Walter and Joan knew that they had to reach it, even if it meant risking their lives. They fought their way through the mutated creatures, using all their strength and cunning to survive. But as they finally reached the cure, they were faced with another twist. The cure was not what they expected. It was a serum that would strip them of their humanity, transforming them into obedient soldiers for the sinister forces that had created the virus. Walter and Joan were faced with a choice: take the cure and risk losing their minds, or face certain death at the hands of the mutated creatures. They hesitated for a moment, but then, as the creatures closed in on them, they made their choice. They took the cure and prepared to face the next phase of their lives. But as they emerged from the laboratory, they realized that they had been given a false sense of security. The serum had only delayed the inevitable, and they would soon turn into monsters just like the others. They suddenly saw their reflection in a nearby puddle, and they saw that their eyes had already turned yellow, a sign that the transformation had begun. And so, Walter and Joan became the latest victims of the virus, condemned to spend the rest of their lives as twisted, mutated creatures in the abandoned research facility. They were lost in the labyrinth of their own minds, and the world would never know what horrors took place within the walls of the isolated laboratory.